welcome Parul and welcome Marcus. We are very fortunate to have Parul Madan, founder of DueDash. I met Parul during her recent pitch at the In5 Incubation Center. And, I just wanted to have a very close up and personal conversation with Parul to learn from her journey as a founder, and also some inspiration to our, Founder Institute and the founding community here in the UAE and the MENA region. And so Parul, first of all, thank you very much for joining. Would love a quick introduction about yourself, who you are, and a bit about your profile. Thank you.
Absolutely, and thanks for having me, Samir, and thinking about doing this. So I'm really excited to hear what you're going to ask me today. So just a quick background, I'm a multi-time founder, also an angel investor, advisor to a bunch of startups. And in the past, I have launched multiple accelerator programs, including Founder Institute here in Cologne. And with all of that, whatever I've done, where to take it forward. And with that, the goal was to bring these learnings into DueDash. And that's how we kind of reconnected over the IN5 a few weeks ago.
Brilliant. Also, can you give me a short summary of, your journey, where it all started, a bit of your educational background, and why did you decide to get into entrepreneurship?
Okay, so that's a long story, but I'll try to keep it short. So my educational background is engineering. I learned to be an electronics and telecommunications engineer, and I'm one of the few fortunate ones who got to work in that industry. So I worked with Ericsson, HP, and German Telecom before I quit and went on to my entrepreneurial journey, which came out of my need, my personal need. At that point in time, as a young mother, and I used to live in Germany before as well, and we moved back to India. And where I was located in Delhi, I had to travel a lot. And as a mid-management level, I had to travel within the country and outside the country. So, and then had certain financial, goals that I had to achieve as well. So I just decided I'm not going to do that. I had a young baby, and I just said, okay, I'm going to just, quit, and I'm going to go on my own. And I just started from pretty much what I knew. So my initial company was basically building a software for telcos, but not tier 1 operators, tier 2 and tier 3, which were, which had subscribers up to 5 million. So they needed the same services, they needed the same quality, but obviously they didn't have such budget. So we just found our niche and we went with that. So that just came out of the need. So there was no passion or no burning desire to build anything new and change the world.
Yeah, exactly. So we all, say we're passionate about things. And I think passionate is just a good word in the dictionary. But really, founders strive to bring their best way possible out of their need. And this is how some of the large companies and startups have actually emerged. And then over a period of time, the need gets converted into a larger community's need. And that helps scale, in a global footprint. So thank you very much for sharing that. Parul, given your experience in multitude of geographies, you worked in India, worked in Europe, launched a couple of companies. This is your second startup. What guidance would you give in terms of culture? How should founders adopt culture in multiple geographies? What should they do first?
Yeah, so, I have built about 7 different businesses in past, Samir. So this is like perhaps the 8th startup, if I might count from that standpoint. And have worked pretty much in most of the geographies internationally. So I think culture is very important. And in the globalized world that we live in, so I had a fortune of working with more than 40 to 50 nationalities across the world. I think the core of the people remains the same. We all are able to communicate because of English, but we just have to be patient, and we just need to take the time to understand the other person, and have to find the right way to successfully partner up, because the English that we speak is usually, it also kind of reflects sometimes our native language, and how that influences us in our communication, and also the experiences that people have had wherever they may have worked, whether they are just students, they are coming out of the colleges or schools. So we need to take that in the background. So I guess it's important to learn a little bit about the country. It's a little bit important to learn about the work ethics, and a person who has good ethics, work ethic, it will show. And I think it's just important to be patient, and listening skill is very important when you're working with people in different geographies, with different cultures, different backgrounds. Just try and understand, and probably just ask questions. And that would simplify the process, and give a good pathway for a successful partnership.
Brilliant. So resilience, patience and understanding of that culture or that market which you're entering into, having a lot of local knowledge, and then expressing effectively and communicating that local knowledge with the stakeholders and the ecosystem you work with is extremely important. Very, very well encapsulated. Parul, let's look at how DueDash is shared. But before that, what have you personally, out of your 8 ventures, now I know that this is your 8th venture, which is amazing, in your journey of raising capital, and in your journey of entrepreneurship, especially relating to the investment ecosystem, what are some of the challenges you have personally come across as a founder? And the second question would be, what are some of the steps the pre-seed or the early seed founders, because you are at some point at that stage as well, so what should they be careful about? What should they be considering when they're raising early stage funding?
I think generally a common feedback to founders, or a general thing that I always say, is be open-minded, be flexible, be willing to learn. I think that is the most important thing as a founder, because people will say good things, people will say bad things. You have to be very, hard, like you said, resilient, to, understand what feedback to take, what feedback not to take. And that's why that flexibility and open-mindedness is important. Otherwise, you can't absorb any feedback that you will get. The other thing about fundraising is it goes down to the same thing, because a lot of people will say no. And as founders, we have to be open about understanding why they are saying no. Is the narrative broken, or is some information that is needed is not being communicated? So we need to take that feedback, make it and whenever we pitch, make it relevant and insightful, so that the next question that is coming up is basically answered through that narrative, through that pitch. So that is always important for early stage founders. And I'm not saying absorb everything. Stay true to what you want to do. It's a very, very thin and tight line to tread. But see what's working, what's not working, write it down, put it across on a whiteboard or a pin board, whatever you have, and see what's working and what's not working. Maybe it's something that we are communicating is not right, and just see how your pitch is working, and get the investor confidence.
Yeah, sure. So I was actually putting that into context to then, tread you onto the DueDash journey. So tell me a little bit on how DueDash evolved, and where did you struck with the initial idea? How did it all come about?
So the DueDash thing, basically it came out from a simple question. As an angel investor, when we started to go on that journey, between Nikhil and I, we assessed over 4,000 plus startups, and we ended up investing in about 40 of them. So why is it so difficult for startups and investors to collaborate on simple things, which is like factual data, which is financial data, and business metrics? And then we started scanning the market, and we started to see what are the tools available out there. And while VCs invest in the most technologically advanced companies, but fundamentally there is no structured process, and there are no standards about how to share the data, how to analyze the data, how to negotiate about this bootstrap data. So there's a lot of manual activity that is needed, and there's a process is also manual, which demands a lot of time. You need to put a lot of effort, and we felt that there is a huge loss in value, and there is a potential to be unlocked. And that's where DueDash was born. So we are coming out with our toolbox to empower founders to basically plan efficiently and work seamlessly with investors. So we already launched a community platform last year. We have a community close to 4,000 people at the moment on the platform, which potentially has educational resources. It provides network, it provides access to a global community, so that the founder journey, they don't feel alone in that. We're launching the platform, investability platform, which is going to help the founders to have investor relations. So why we say investor relations is about communication, basically. Communicating to investors on your business metrics and financial data, and bring more transparency into that process. Then we are coming out with few more products, which is going to be announced soon.
Sure. So a couple of things, again, taking back from your conversation, is what lacks with most of the founders is investor communication, and DueDash is actually providing a platform not only for communication, but also for diligence. And then you're looking to build over time different products or different modules within DueDash. So it could become an investment management community of founders, a network of VCs, angels, and stuff like that. Or is it just founders initially to start with, and then you'll bring the VC angel ecosystem into it? Something like the angel list and others, NFX, angel list.
Yeah. So I think there are a lot of people who are doing this, and everybody has their own take and a unique insight on it. So what we want to do is we want to provide a holistic platform for people. So with platform, it would mean multiple different products to create that network effects. So for very early stage founders, it's going to be education, network access. That's what they get from the community platform. The founders who have an MVP and they're building their product, they can come on the investor relations platform, and it's important to report to your investors on your progress, whether you've received the investments or you're still engaging with them to raise the funds. And that should not be a chore. It should not become lower in your priority, and that is also a typical cause and effect on your manual interactions if you're not updating them regularly. So I think what we are trying to do is we are trying to have a different take on this, and we are trying to flip that to make it more meaningful and impactful for both sides to engage with each other. And that helps in the due diligence process, because the transparency builds trust. And we have seen that during COVID times, most of the interactions are happening online. There is a lot of fundraising that has been done online. So this we feel from a VC industry as well is going in the direction of future of work. So we see our platform fitting very well into that area. And founders can share their data room easily with investors with one click, and they stay in control all the time. So they don't have to do it over Dropboxes or the Google Drives of the world. They stay in control. So that's where the due diligence aspect kind of come in. And we're just trying to create a seamless environment for both investors and founders to collaborate with each other in a much easy. I think the easy and the intuitive part is the most important aspect for us, because there's so many small pieces in this journey which needs to be addressed, and we're trying to solve for that.
And when you bring this community, when this community evolves into a global community, you've seen it launch within your own community of 4,000 founders or startups.
Mm-hmm.
You invested in about 40 of them. What is it that you've really eased? Have you crunched the time to invest? For example, the biggest thing for early stage founders is they spend a lot of time prospecting for investors, and the only reason is because they do not know the real persona of how to target investors and which investors to kind of target, and then what are the next steps, formation documents of term sheets, and the legalization of a deal is very much unknown to a lot of early stage founders. So using the DueDash platform, are you bringing all these elements together?
Yes, in a simple word, yes. So there, but like I said, there are multiple pieces to it. So there is education piece, that is what we are solving for. Like you mentioned very rightly, education and finding the templates. So obviously we cannot provide templates for across the world, but there are industry standards which people can follow. And then we are partnering with international brands also to provide some standardization there. But the legal infrastructure would be what the local partnerships. So once we are in Dubai and Middle East as well, so we will have some local partnerships to kind of alleviate that pain for the legal setup through the pathway of IN5 and with Beyond Network as well. But as DueDash, we are partners with AWS, we are partners with HubSpot, Freshworks, and Canva, and other big brands. So there is a big, benefit that founders can leverage through that for early stage. And then comes the approach part. So we will have a database of investors in the system, which is again international. So we already announced it's going to be 40,000 plus investor database that we have, and it's growing on a continuous basis. And founders can reach out to investors in their local region, in their local geography. And it's always important to plan. So we do have a course about how to go about fundraising already on our community, which is received very well by the pre-seed founders and seed founders as well, because structuring your fundraising is more important than actually just going and pitching alone. Each part is important and critical, but having that planning is very, very important. So it will all unfold as we go forward on that journey.
A lot of information there. I think we spoke about the markets. We spoke about your global community evolving day by day. What made you think that Middle East, UAE, and Dubai is for DueDash the next step to launch? What are some of the trends you saw for an investment platform like DueDash to make a foray into the Middle Eastern market using Dubai and the UAE as the base?
So, Sami, it's a very interesting question that you ask, and it's very close to our strategy as well. So this industry has been growing at the CAGR of 23% annually. So there's like billions are getting invested annually, and it's just increasing. So we see the trend of hedge funds and the large private equities also coming into this foray. So the money is becoming more and more accessible. And there are certain industries which are getting disrupted globally. So we know about automotive industries. We've seen the disruption in how we basically go and stay when we travel. So I think the future is around tech, and we see that this geography is evolving, moving away from the traditional oil-based industry and looking into the future to be more financially independent, becoming financial hub. As well as foray into the technological, advancement and all those things. So we feel that UAE will take a very big role into the evolution of this entire geography, the entire MENA region, and leading the path for Africa as well. And we want to empower the founders in that geography. So in Western world, there are a lot of people who are doing that. I mean, you are associated with Founder Institute yourself, and the history is about 10 years.
Yes.
And a lot of that has been done. And we see the results today from that. And we feel with DueDash, we can definitely create that vibrancy that is needed for the future entrepreneurs. And hopefully we can also instill some social responsibility, because SDG goals are very, very close to our heart. And we want to bring the next generation of entrepreneurs with social responsibility.
Yeah, I think that's very brilliant. FI works on the for progress KPIs, and we've actually developed a whole framework around for progress. Anybody who mentions sustainable development goals, and if that is a part of their pitch, it's very impressive, because today's investment is all around impact, and the days of CSR, corporate social responsibility, has been redefined to ESG. And a lot of this discussion today is around impact investing, and how can impact and social impact investors bring a lot of value to early stage and seed and later stage companies. So you will see a large private equity VC in our region also forming conscious capital funds to invest in these startups. So definitely a good opportunity for DueDash to enter. We're all hard pressed for time, so I just want to leave with some closing remarks. Some few hints, a couple of hints, which you have seen in Europe, and you have you're recently entering the market. What are a couple of things you would like to guide the early stage founders with when it comes to investment?
So I think the most important aspect is, the narrative, and is the narrative coherent and consistent? Are you communicating the value proposition that you have? Mm-hmm. And like my MIT Sloan professors always told me, you have to always communicate. What are you solving for? Mm-hmm. So if you can just communicate that, and what is your unique insight that you have, I think those are two main things which are very important. And when we talk about startup, it is not like a traditional business or anything like that. So it's always about scale and the growth factors. So if you are building a company, if you're building that next big disruptive company, which is going to become a landmark, so think about that, like how will you achieve the scalability? Is your market segment right? Is it going to be a growing market? What are going to be your revenue sources? Because the VCs are looking for 10x return. So how can you return that? So all those factors are important when you're pitching, and your business plan has to reflect that. You should be able to show that you have done the homework. I think what is most important for VCs, because they anyway are placing a bet on a good founder who's able to build something, is able to deliver on that promise. Mm-hmm. But the initial work shows that you've done the homework. I think that is the most important thing. And it should not be just that, give me money on a pitch. Do the homework, show that you're willing to go that extra mile, and you really are going to execute on that plan.
Excellent, Parul and Marcus, thank you very much for your time today. It was very insightful conversation. And it would be very interesting to kind of learn from your launch in the UAE and the Middle East. And obviously, we are looking forward to the collaboration with DueDash in due course. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us, Amit.